In this exercise, we're going to talk about the application options. Application options are the same across the entire program, meaning if you open one part or another part, one assembly, the other assembly, all these options carry from one to the other. One of the things you can override is your username. I want my username to show up as Andy Warren, so that in all my iProperties, it shows up as that. I have the option to prompt to save for updates. I have the option to go through and look at where all my files, all my templates, all my design data, all my libraries, this is where this is all controlled, where everything's at. So if I wanted to have this out on a public drive, so you could have it out on a shared drive somewhere. I have my colors. Millennium, I think, works the best for me, but you can see there's several different colors for your background that you can do. You have your display options where you can go through and tweak some of the transition times. So if you're used to a AutoCAD mouse wheel, you can actually reverse the mouse zoom so that it zooms the other way. You also can control your default orbit type, steering wheels, your view cubes. You can adjust the hardware based on your video card. So if you have a good video card, you can adjust it for performance. You can actually run a diagnostics and let it tell you what it thinks your video card should be doing. It'll look at, what the video card specs are, and it'll say, okay, you can tweak this or not that. Prompts, you can actually go down through here and say, what is it going to do? Is it always going to prompt you? Is it going to come up and say, okay? Is it going to automatically fill this out for me? You always get those annoying prompts. You're like, why does it ask me this? This is where you can go in there and turn it off so it doesn't ask you that. Drawing information. This is specific to the drawings. You can adjust, what's the default. I'm going to say the default for me is going to be IDW, maybe DWG for you. Non-inventor drawing files, what do? You can import it or open it. There's a little bit of a difference there. Inventor DWG version, so you could save it back if you needed to, if you were working with people that didn't have the latest version. You can look at the block insertion points. So you can see there's a lot of drawing information in here. We have the ability to have a notebook to where you can keep notes in the drawing so that anything you do about the drawing, you can keep in there. Sketch information. This is where you can turn on and off auto project during curve creation. This is where you can look at sketch plane when it rotates around. We've been in this before, but I just wanted to show it to you again. One of the things that I know a lot of people complain about is the display of grid lines in a sketch. You hit a new sketch. You can get it to where it'll automatically display these grid lines. Experienced users don't like that. But I've met several new users who like that option because that kind of tells you, hey, I'm in the sketch environment versus the part environment, and kind of helps you realize where you're at and keep your bearings so you don't get lost, because there's a lot of information being thrown at you in here. Content Center, assembly options. How do you want to handle the assembly? iFeature options, where your iFeatures are stored. We didn't really get into iFeatures, but this is where you control that. And then lastly, your part features. We talked about, do you want it to do a new sketch or do you want it to ask you? I said, if I'm modeling a bunch of individual parts, I don't want it to ask me. But if I'm in an assembly, I do want it to ask me. So you kind of get that option of, do you want it to ask you or not? You can edit the solid either using Inventor Fusion or Legacy Solid Edit. Trust me, Inventor Fusion is much easier. Geometric constraints, you can decide if you want to break them or relax them. If you're starting to move things around with 3D grips, hey, what do you want it to do? So you have a lot of objects in here, a lot of options to go through all these different things. But this is where everything's stored that's program wide. So if it's used over and over again, and this will be remembered forever and ever. So it doesn't matter what drawing you have open, this one is program wide, whereas the document settings is by each file. So this is the application options that saves everything about your environment.